Hello and welcome to another episode of Ringside Fracas. I'm your host Naeem, and today I'm joined by Jide. Jide, how are you, bro?
I'm good, bro. How are you?
Yeah, been good. Good weekend of boxing that just passed. And Chris, how are you, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Just reflecting on the weekend's boxing.
Yeah. Again, we kind of mentioned this in the last couple episodes where boxing since the Crawford Canelo fight has kind of been a bit stagnant in terms of the schedule. It's been inconsistent, and there's not really been much to look forward to. But of course, last weekend was the heavyweight clash between Joseph Parker and Fabio Wardley, with the implications being that the winner would most likely go on to fight Alexander Usyk in the next year, being the next challenger to the throne. The initial thoughts to this fight was always Fabio Wardley was out of his depth against Joseph Parker, that while he had a chance, while he was a big puncher and he's got a lot of grit, Joseph Parker should have more than enough to get through this, actually be able to stop Wardley and show himself as the next contender to Usyk's throne. Um, and Fabio Wardley ripped up the script. I mean, what a fight it was! It was a brilliant action-packed back and forth between the two of them, in where Fabio Wardley upset the odds and knocked out Joseph Parker in the 11th round. It was a very good fight. Um, it was a poor pay-per-view, and we'll get onto that in a bit. But the fight itself delivered. It was one of the another heavyweight fight that was really exciting, ecstatic to watch that fight, and you couldn't keep your eyes off of it. It was thrilling from the first bell to the last. Obviously, some controversy with how it ended, but big up Fabio Wardley. This is a guy that started his career as a white collar boxer. He was not, he wasn't part of the amateur scene. He wasn't doing this since he was a kid. He just took it up because it was something that they were doing at work because he used to work as a recruitment consultant. And he was an athletic guy, and white collar boxing worked well for him. And then he decided to become a pro boxer. And look how many years later, now he's the next in line for a world title shot and potentially an undisputed heavyweight world title shot, and he's knocking out guys that no one really expects him to knock out, like guys like Joseph Parker, Justice Hooney, Fraser Clark. These are huge knockouts and huge wins that he's put on his record, and I got to give him his flowers. Like, again, I wouldn't have been expecting to say on this podcast that he's the winner and that he knocked out Joseph Parker, but he's proved it wrong, and he's really at the top of his game right now. Jide, what were your thoughts on how Fabio Wardley stopped Joseph Parker in the O2 Arena? Jide? All right.
Is he there?
Yeah, are you there? Oh, I'll come.
I think,
Chris,
I think.
your thoughts on Saturday night's fight?
Yeah, so great fight, first of all, first and foremost. It was a great heavyweight fight. I feel like the styles both matched up well against each other. Um, you could see Wardley's inexperience kind of helped the fight flow along, where he was just willing to stand and trade. And it felt like Parker was trying to weather the storm, trying to use his boxing brain. And what that culminated to being is Wardley having quite an emphatic start, hurting Joseph Parker early. Joseph Parker was able to weather the storm. He kind of showed his class later on, boxing him for the majority of the rounds. Um, it was always competitive. I felt like it was always competitive throughout. It just felt like Joseph Parker was running away with it just because of the fact that he had better boxing. Now we get to the final round, round 11, and obviously that's where the controversy starts. Um, I think Parker in the previous round was doing really, really well, put quite a lot of shots onto Wardley. Wardley was eating some real clean shots, and it really showed how much of a chin he's got. But in that round 11, we get to a stage where Parker's hurt. Parker's visibly hurt. He's rocked. He's kind of moving quite like his legs have given way. He's moving all over the place, and he's in survival mode. Now, credit to Parker in my opinion anyway, he's quote unquote tried his best to weather the storm. And that's where we get to the stoppage where, yes, he wasn't throwing back. He definitely wasn't throwing any shots back. But was he getting hit clean frequently enough? I don't believe so personally. I felt the stoppage was extremely early, given the magnitude of the fight and the consequences of the fight. It might be one of those things where referees need to kind of establish at what point they're going to stop fights and what they want to see from fighters. Because I don't know how much that's made clear pre-fight to each of the fighters. Um, in my personal opinion, obviously we'll never know, but I feel if the ref had let it go on, Parker weathers the storm and sees out the rest of the fight. I don't think Wardley had anything left after the barrage of punches he threw. I really don't see him having enough left in the tank to end the fight within the next round. So for me, early stoppage. But regardless of that, I'm still giving Wardley all the credit. He fought a great fight. He showed a lot of his attributes. He showed that he's got his power. He showed he's got chin. He's got heart. We saw him take some real big punches and just step it up anytime he got quote unquote hurt. But yeah, onto the next for Wardley. If it's going to be Usyk, um, it's not really a fight that I want to see. It'd be interesting, but I don't know if stylistically it will be the fight that would be entertaining per se. I just don't see it. But there's always that one punch factor that Woodley's got, so we never know. But now the options are limitless for him. There's loads of fighters he can fight, and I wish him all the best.
Yeah, perfectly well summed up. I mean, Jide is the UK's version or answer to Deontay Wilder, Fabio Wardley. Was that again another example of his performances where, again, he might not be winning every single round, but he's got the power to make it count. And once he lands, that's it. He lands. Is that your thoughts after that? After last Saturday's performance?
Yeah, well put. That's exactly how I see Fabio Wardley. I see him as, in fact, a more technical version. Doesn't hit quite as hard as Wilder, but he's better technically. That's how poor Wilder is. Like Wardley started boxing later than Wilder, and is better technically. But let's not deviate too much. But yeah, it was a great fight. Again, he showed what he's all about, which is explosive, quick, loads of heart, hits extremely hard, and he's just a dog in there, man. Woodley is the kind of guy where if he hurts you or he's hurt, he's gonna swing, and it's like one of you is gonna go, and he backs himself and backs his chin. I saw a video of Woodley when he was doing white color, and you can see how much damage this guy's face is taking. It is absolutely crazy. He has taken an absolute battering in his career, and but it's credit to him. He does need. I feel like in the heavyweight division, you can't keep taking big shots. It's just it's your chin is eventually gonna crack. So I feel like it's something that maybe you should clean up. But while he's still young, while he's still got the desire to fight at this level, it's amazing. But yeah, the fight itself was great. Like I said, it was back and forth. I would say Hooney gave Wardley more trouble than Parker, which I was a bit surprised at that. But Parker came in so heavy, that was probably why it was maybe a bit. It wasn't as good with his lateral movement, but he was using a lot of veteran tactics. He was outboxing uh, Wardley. In the 10th round, I feel like that's when it really changed because I agree with Chris, Parker was doing well, but Wardley hurt Parker in that 10th round. And it's like it gave him confidence, which he carried over to the 11th round, and he really hurt Parker with a great shot. Fainted low, overhand right to the top, it hit him in the button, and he was badly hurt. I'm just disgusted at this point. The BBOC, whatever they're called, all these guys, they won't do anything about it. And if I'm a foreign fighter, I am never fighting. Um, if I'm need to know if Howard Foster's the ref, and if he's the ref, I'm not fighting. I'm not saying he only does this to foreign fighters. Obviously, we had a Carl Froch versus George Groves, but I just feel like why take the risk with this guy? This guy is prolific over the last 10 years in stopping fights prematurely. He's robbed Fabio Wardley of perhaps a big knockout, like what we saw when Joe Joyce knocked out Joseph Parker. And he's also potentially robbed Parker from coming back and winning the fight, which he was ahead in two judges' scorecards, at least by 2 rounds. It was his fight to lose. He was winning. Wardley was missing, and Wardley was completely spent when he was throwing. Parker threw 2 punches before the last flurry that my man stopped the fighting. So you could see he was just tired. It was shattered, it was hurt, but it was still there. It was rolling with the punches, riding it paws. That should not have been stopped. And it disgusts me where you see some pros and guys in boxing saying they understand. No, don't understand Howard Foster. You're not supposed to ever understand what these guys are doing. These are careers and opportunities they're ruining. Parker was potentially looking at a 10 million payday, 20 million maybe. I don't know what Turkey was going to give him. Now that's gone because one guy decides to stop the fight. You see Parker protesting using his elbow. And you know, I don't care for this just take the result. No, if I'm Parker, I'm not taking that result. I'm filing an official complaint with the British Boxing Board of Control. And I'm telling Frank Warren, I do not ever want this guy reffing my fights ever again. Because it's too much now at this point. But yeah, that's what for me.
No, perfectly well said. I mean, my complaints when it comes around the stoppage is what I always say to boxers is never give anyone any opportunity. So when it comes to the judges to rob you, don't give them the opportunity. Unfortunately, that's the reality of our sport. Where yeah, we do have to stamp it out. There's no doubt about it. I'm not going to say that we've beat that bush multiple times, but pause. But we should always tell boxers you shouldn't give anyone the opportunity. And Parker gave Howard Foster the opportunity to do so because there were a lot of unanswered punches. You're right, he did fight back, and a lot of them were missing. The one thing that I think a lot of fighters tend to miss out on is learning how to clinch when they're in trouble. I think that's a very key skill that a lot of fighters are missing out on. That when you're hurt, to be able to just clinch and hold and gain a few seconds, gain whatever time you can get to be able to clinch and hold and take away the punches is the difference between getting stopped and getting to the next round. It's very key when it comes to survive. The problem when it comes to certain guys is they're too brave for their own good, and so they want to keep firing back even when they're in trouble, and sometimes being smarter in those situations, especially with someone like Fabio Wardley. If you clinch with him, yes, he's physical, he's rough, he's tough, he can move around. I promise you, if you clinch with him, he'll have to separate and then you have to go again, and it takes a lot out of you when you have to separate and go again. So that's where Parker kind of made a lot of mistakes. Even I was thinking, you're going all over the ring, and you're trying to shell up because you want to counter, but you're just better off just grabbing both of his arms, tying up, getting the referee involved, and getting that extra time that you need. And everyone's given Fabio his flowers, and I'm giving his flowers as well. But I can also look at Joseph Parker and criticize certain things, not because obviously I'm a better boxer or anything, but where he could have done better. I think the tactics for this fight were kind of similar to what he did against Joyce. I think Parker kind of gets this idea into his head that he's this huge bruiser, and if he gets his punches going, he can knock out anyone. And I don't think that's ever been the case. I think he's a decent boxer. I think at heavyweight, there's nothing special about him, but he's more than good enough to be at world level and stay at that. He's got the ability to do so. The problem is, like for example, where I think the parallels are between the Wardley fight and the Joyce fight is he thinks he's a puncher and he's going to go take the fight to his opponent. Looking for those heavy knockout punches, and he was winning rounds 3 till rounds 4 till 8 or 9, where he was punching Wardley, catching him more often as the rounds went by, and landing huge shots. But I felt sometimes whenever he went on a flurry, you could tell he was loading up quite a bit and missing quite heavily, which drains you, as well as Wardley was getting drained when it came to throwing heavy punches and overextending and missing. Parker was doing so as well. Parker was smothering a lot of his work or missing and getting too close. And again, it's this idea. He did the same thing with Joyce, where this guy seems like this guy has never been knocked out in front of me. I'm gonna be better enough to knock him out and show that my power carries, and that always gets him in trouble. He fought Wardley's fight a lot of the times in that fight. In round 2, he got hit and got wobbled, and again, it was because he's fighting Wardley's fight. Wardley's a guy who wants a scrap. He's not. He showed some good boxing skills, slip uppercuts, moving well on his feet, using his jab, being sharp, stabbing the body very well. That really worked to his advantage. But he's also someone that fights off of instinct, and that's been one of the dangerous things about him for an opponent, but also dangerous for Wardley himself, because it gets him into trouble because he gets hit more and more often. The problem here was Parker was expecting to drop Wardley at some point, and it didn't happen. And the same thing happened with Joyce. He was expecting to drop them, and it didn't. And when it doesn't come, you punch even harder because your ego doesn't let you try to adjust and move. And because he came, one thing I mentioned in the group chat before the fight started, I said 262 is quite heavy for someone like Joseph Parker. I wonder if he's actually adapted his style for that heavy power, or if he was going to make the same mistakes. And I believe he made the same mistakes as he did in the Joyce fight, where you have someone who's got tough chin, he can crack, but he's also got a good engine. And he just got outworked and outmanned in the last couple rounds. He got hurt 3 times in round 2, which caused him to kind of pattern up a bit and get the middle rounds back. But then round 10 got really hurt, and what happened was he cracked Wardley, and then Wardley took it, rolls with some of the punches as well, and then came back with his own slip uppercut and really ruined Parker's night. And Parker wasn't able to adjust. And I think egotistically as well, it hurts the fighter when it's like, oh, I've hurt you, but then you can hurt me back. It's like, I want to go and hurt you again then, because you should be going down, but somehow you were able to hurt me. It kind of, says that my power isn't what it is. And I think Parker kind of has that, where he wants to be this huge heavyweight puncher, and he just isn't. He's a good puncher, and he keeps you honest. And a lot of those shots should have knocked out or at least dropped certain guys, but sometimes it doesn't. You have to be able to adjust at this level, and he couldn't. And Wardley's one of those guys that you can't make consistent mistakes with, and Parker was always making the mistakes, not getting his head off the line, staying in range for Wardley to tee off on him, and he paid the price. But I agree the stoppage wasn't great, but at the same time, Parker was up, but I don't think Parker was going to win that fight. Even if Wardley was out of punches, the way Parker was fighting, he just didn't look good at all. I thought there was a lot to be wanted from Parker's performance, and he'll kick himself, because I think he kind of looked at Wardley as small fish. I'm not going to say he didn't prepare properly, but he probably thought he was going to knock this guy out, and it didn't happen. And that's not the way you should ever prepare, especially for a fight on this level. You should always prepare to win. If the knockout comes, it comes. If you're forcing for it, it's never going to happen, and it gets you into more trouble than it does help you. So yeah, but for Wardley, look, he's got Usyk next, I think, most likely. And like Chris said, I agree. I don't think it's going to be a great fight, because the footwork is going to be on Usyk. Every aspect other than power is all on Usyk's side. Wardley's got that puncher's chance, so that's what people are going to tune in for. But he's going to get punched up. And what I wouldn't be surprised to see is Wardley getting knocked out quite badly, because you can have a great chin, and he does have a great chin. He's got toughness and whatnot. But this is the type of fight where he'd get consistently tagged again and again and again, with the angles, the level changes, the feints from Usyk. And when someone consistently tags you again and again and again, I just feel like the brain will just shut down at some point. Like, we can't keep doing this, and bang, he just gets hit with a shot that you don't expect him to get knocked out by, and just puts him flat on his back. And it breaks the chin. It might even crack the chin, because he's been taking a lot of heavy punches throughout his career. But it was a good night. It was a good event. The whole, in terms of just the main fight was really good. I enjoyed it. I still don't think it was pay-per-view worthy. The entire main event, the entire card was rubbish. There's nothing to note. It was at the O2. It wasn't promoted properly, in my opinion, because I don't think anyone, I don't know about you guys, but none of my friends who watch boxing casually, like they just watch whatever's kind of interesting.
Not a chance.
No, they didn't know about it at all. and he wasn't promoted at all in that aspect. Like in my head, I'm thinking it's an O2 fight, so it should be promoted like it's an O2 fight. It wasn't even promoted in that aspect. So it's quite disappointing, and we kind of touched upon this before about the promotion in boxing going now, and UK boxing not really looking great. And this is one of those examples where someone like Joseph Parker and Fabio Wardley got paid overinflated purses to be at the O2, but the event just didn't do anything like to what they got paid. There's no worth you're getting. There's no you're not getting your worth in that. And so yeah, it's a bit disappointing how everything kind of panned out. The fight, it delivered, but again, it didn't get the hype it should have gotten, all the promotion that it should have deserved. But yeah, what do you think will be next for Joseph Parker, considering this is his third? Yeah, he lost to, it will be a third loss, and it's a huge knockout loss. His face got rearranged. Chris, what's next for Parker?
It's a tough one, really. It's a tough one. I think Parker's what, 32, 33? I think it's 32, 33. One of the two anyway. But
33.
he's 33. So he's at a bit of a crossroad where he's still young enough that he can do a bit of a rebuild, similar to what AJ did. Just try and fight fighters, maybe a bit more tailored to your style. Maybe pick up a couple fringe worthy names. Maybe like a Dave Allen to start off with. Maybe even like a Fraser Clark. And fight some of those guys, and then see where you're at by getting back in the mix with whoever's left come a year's time. We don't know whether Usyk will be there. We don't know whether belts will be fragmented, but he's got options. He's got opportunities. So he has got the option to rebuild, but he's also got the opportunity to try and get himself a semi-big name. Do you know what I mean? He could go and fight someone like a not Wilder, like an AJ. I think the AJ fight would be quite viable for the both of them at this point in time. A bit of a crossroad fight. He could go fight someone. I know Tony Yoka's meant to be fighting soon, but maybe he could fight the winner of a Yoka and Caballero. He could fight one of those guys. But for me, I think the main thing with Joseph Parker and his team is that they need to be realistic about the kind of fighter he is. They need to really just accept that he's not this power puncher. He doesn't have the power that will scare a lot of these top guys. Do you know what I mean? He's not knocking out these top guys. And so he should stick to what he's best at, his boxing. And I feel like for me, if I was managing him, I'll probably take him along the route of, your Dave Allens, maybe your Johnny Fishers. Try and get him to fight maybe some lower level opposition and just work at what he's good at and take that to the top level. Because he was, he was scheduled to fight Usyk. Now, if the Joseph Parker that fought Wardley on Saturday fought Usyk, he would have been stopped. He would have gassed out and he would have hit the canvas. And I don't know, he might have quit. Because I don't know what he thinks. I don't know what he thinks he is. Similar to what you said. Maybe he thinks he's a power puncher in his head. Maybe his team have told him he's a power puncher. Maybe he's knocking people out and sparring. But whenever it comes down to these big fights, he's not. I can't think of anyone of a decent level he's knocked out.
It's
I
just
just can't.
Bacoli.
Literally just a Bacoli. He was there on what, a day or two's notice. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, he's a good boxer. He needs to drop his weight back down. The weight thing was a complete mess. Stay where you're comfortable, and then just go with that. Honestly, he's still young enough that he can He can come back, make a bit of a comeback. I don't know how optimistic I am about his chances against the top guys, against your Dubois, against your Caballeros, but he can mix it in with them. He's got a good enough resume, and I don't think this loss should define him. It is heavyweight boxing at the end of the day. So
Jide, where does Parker go next?
Yeah, I echo basically everything you and Chris have said, really. Yeah, he thinks he's what he's not. He's something he's not. He thinks he's a power puncher. And yeah, it would have been stopped by Usyk. It's quite a shame because I had high expectations for him. And maybe the run he's been on has been a bit overstated. As we know now, he beat a washed Wilder. He beat Zhang. That's a good win, but we know Zhang's issue is after the sixth round, he's done. So it's like,
and he got dropped twice.
and he got dropped twice in that fight, yeah, and it looked like he was gonna get stopped a few times. So yeah, it's not like it was an elite performance. He just scraped by that win, and then he fought Bakole and stopped Bakole, who we know Bakole has no defense, and the guy literally didn't prepare for that fight properly. So yeah, his run might have been a bit overstated. Again, I was high on him because I felt, yeah, give him the opportunity. He makes my boy AJ's resume look good, you know what I mean? But it's like he threw everything away in this fight. So he's 33, but I think he's an old 33. He's had a lot of tough fights. And when you've had tough fights, it's like boxing age and your real age ain't the same thing. I feel like he's had hard sparring, he's had tough fights. I just don't know where Joseph Parker's at, like right now going forward. So I think if I'm him, I'm not saying to retire. There's still some big fights for him, but I just don't know if he can come back and to be that dominant force. And his personality is quite, it's like he accepts stuff. Again, it's good to be stoic sometimes. It's good to accept things you can't change. I'm like, it's a good way to think, to live in life. But I feel like in boxing and in sports, you need to be defiant. You need to be like, no, you need to be delusional, sorry, to an extent, which is why the likes of Wilder done so well, and maybe that's why AJ is done really well. But it's that mentality of defiance. Even Amir Khan. Amir Khan was very delusional, but that level of delusional makes you great. And I feel like Joseph Parker is like a nice guy. He wants to be cool. He just accepts things that happen to him. And I feel like that's kind of held him back a bit as well. So yeah, I think going forward, he should probably mix it with Daniel Dubois. I guess that you could make that fight. If he wants an easy win, I'm guessing Joe Joyce is still running around. He can beat him in a rematch. He can probably beat up Dillian White if he's available. If he's lucky, he might get an AJ fight. I feel like that's the circle we'll mix it with. I'll be very surprised if he gets a world title crack anytime soon.
By the way, Amir Khan was delusional. It's just early stoppages, like the Canelo loss was an early stoppage in my opinion. But anyway, we'll move on from that. Yeah, no, I agree. I think Parker, there's loads of options on the table, but it's also like that realism that you kind of have to play of. If I box and use my feet and kind of mix in punching and boxing, I'll be better off rather than trying to be this huge bruiser that I think I am. So yeah, fair enough. Yeah, a good event, but again, not event, a good fight. The event was crap, and again, another fight we have to look forward to as UK boxing fans because we're absolutely starved. Is Joshua Buatsi making his return against Zach Parker in Manchester? The card itself actually isn't bad on a domestic level, and I don't think this is pay-per-view, which is a good thing. So as a card, this isn't bad to watch, especially on Freeview. There are some good fights. Obviously, you've got Joshua Buatsi versus Zach Parker. You've got Liam Cameron versus Troy Jones. You've got Bradley Rhea versus Lyndon Arthur. So there's some decent fights at the light heavyweight division to tune into. Joshua Buatsi, of course, coming off that loss against Callum Smith out in Riyadh. What a brilliant fight that was. Both men really put it all on the line. But a fight that kind of exposed a lot of Buatsi's flaws, one being his tendency to hold his feet far too often. not clinch and really having to ship punishment because he doesn't know how to adjust. He has kind of lulls in fights where he was just standing in the mid range, trying to look for counters, but getting hit, getting his guard pierced by Callum Smith's left hook and straight right hand, and getting hurt quite often in that fight. But he was firing back. He showed a lot of grit. But again, the limitations were shown in that fight. And Zach Parker has been a fighter who really hasn't had that name or opponent on his resume to really get him to that world level stage. It was only Zack Ryder that he fought. And even that fight, it was tricky a bit. It was 4 rounds and then he quit off of an injury. And one thing I want to say about this fight, and I'm not going to act like I'm tougher than anyone or anything else. The one thing I've noticed about Zach Parker throughout a lot of his fights, and he hasn't fought at a high level, mind you, I don't think he's got as much grit as he thinks he does. I think when the punches start flying, when it starts to get tricky, Zach Parker mentally will look for a way out. He's been fortunate that in most of the fights he's been in, he's better technically than the guy in front of him. So he's able to circle the outside and keep them away from him until the final bell. He doesn't hold that much power or pop. So when he's in those close exchanges, he has to get out of there because he knows he's not going to land something that's going to knock him out or put them down or hurt them. And they might land something that will hurt him. And he's been hurt before. The injury that pulled him out of Zack Ryder, I'm not going to tell anyone whether or not they should continue, but it looked like nothing to me. And Zack looked too comfortable with just pulling out of that fight and losing it, essentially. I think the same thing will happen here where he will go a bit deeper with this Buatsi fight, but eventually he's going to quit because he's going to realize he's in with a guy who's much better technically, who can punch harder and is not going anywhere. And he won't be able to circle the outside because Buatsi will eventually get to him. I think this is a perfect fight for Buatsi to try to get some confidence back, land a few punches. It might be a crap fest, especially with the way Parker and Buatsi kind of fight, because when Buatsi has his lulls and he's not really throwing a lot, Parker can also be negative, hold, and then move and circle out. And so some rounds might be difficult to watch. But what I can see happening is Buatsi really targeting the body well. He did against Smith and he did against Hutchinson really well. I thought those were 2 things that went underrated about Joshua Buatsi. His body punching has become much better. I think in this fight, it will be key for him to win and stop Parker from moving off and get him closer to that quitting point. I think Buatsi will start to let his hands go in the middle rounds. And as he's landing more and more often, Parker will look visibly scared of the punches. And either the corner pulls him out or he gets hit by a shot or to the body where he just takes a knee and he's done. For Buatsi, this is essentially, if you want to still become a household name in Britain and you want to get a world title in your career at some point, you have to win this fight. For Zach Parker, I can see him rebuilding again at this domestic level. So losing isn't huge for Zach Parker. He's not expected to win anyway. He can make things tough, but he's not expected to win, especially with the style he can make it tough and how negative he can be and a bit crafty. But Joshua Buatsi does a lot on the line here. He if he really wants to be that name that everyone kind of thinks he can be, he can't take 2 losses in a row, and especially a loss to someone like Zach Parker who hasn't beaten anyone. But yeah, I think Buatsi makes him quit, and I think maybe we'll start to see something from Buatsi because I think after that Callum Smith fight, you kind of have to ask yourself where you are in your career and how much you really want this. But Jide, your thoughts on Joshua Buatsi and his comeback?
Yeah, I think it's a good fight for a comeback fight. I think Joshua Buatsi needs this. He needs a fight where he can look good. The issue here is I don't know how much more can be done with Joshua Buatsi. He's 32 years old, so I guess he's still relatively young, but he's been around for so long, and he should have fought for a world title by now. I truly feel he should have fought for a world title by now. And his last fight with Smith was great. It was really entertaining. And him coming back against Zach Parker, it's a good fight. If he looks good, I think they need to throw him in the deep end straight away. It's like this fight isn't this fight for me is a foregone conclusion. I'm more interested in what Joshua Buatsi does after that. If he struggles against Zach Parker, then it just tells me that like Joshua Buatsi is just he's not as good as I thought he was gonna be, or maybe he's not got that dog, because really and truly after this fight he should have been looking at he should be looking at the winner between uh Yard, and obviously Smith's gonna fight that when I think if, correct me if I'm wrong, but he should be looking at basically the world champions. We should have got the Yard fight. We can still get the Yard fight, but it's just like I've just been very disappointed with Joshua Buatsi. His career's flattered to the sea for me. So I'm more interested in what he does after this fight than the actual. Like, I'll watch the fight again. I'm expecting Joshua Buatsi to look good. He's a better boxer. His fundamentals are there, but I just want to see Joshua Buatsi do something for me.
Chris, how do you see this comeback for Joshua Buatsi going?
Very similarly to what Jide said, pretty much echoing what his sentiments are. I feel Josh has to win emphatically, in my opinion. I think he needs to get a knockout. And yeah, like Jide said, he's for someone who has been as skilled as he is, as decorated as he's been in his British and amateur career, he should have been doing a lot more. Do you know what I mean? There was a lot of talk about Joshua Buatsi when he first came about, while he was with Eddie and all sorts. We really expected him to do quite a bit. At least by now have fought for a world title, and he just hasn't done that. We saw him against Callum Smith, and he really showed a lot of heart, and a lot of grit. But the problem was there seemed to be a marked skill gap between the two, in my opinion. It just felt like one was just so much more seasoned than the other. And I feel like they have to look at him and his team need to look at that fight, see the areas in which they can improve, see his deficiencies, see when he blanks out during fights and take shots. And we've seen him get hit with shots that he should not, someone of his skill level should not be getting hit by. And something's got to give, like he's really got to dial that in. So during this Parker fight, for me, he has to really look good. From a promotional standpoint, from a mental standpoint, he just needs to make people actually fear him. Because right now, I don't think anyone looks at Joshua Buatsi and thinks, "Oh, that's going to be a difficult fight." Most of these guys think, if I put it on him, I'll probably win. Um, and it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be like that for someone who's been as skilled as he's been. So yeah, like Jide said, I expect nothing less than a win. To be honest, I'm expecting a stoppage, and then I'm expecting a big announcement to follow for a big fight after this. So
Yeah, it's interesting because I think with Buatsi, like you say, if he beats Parker, his best wins to date in his career will be um, Zach Parker, Willie Hutchinson, and Bolotniks. And at this stage of your career, especially coming out of the Olympics, that's poor. Like you can't be at this stage of your career. He's like what 32 almost now. He's basically nearing the end of his prime years athletically, and saying that my best wins are these guys. He needs to get his career together. But I think another aspect also is we've spoken about this before, but how much improvement he really has made under Virgil Hill. But yeah, Virgil Hunter, right? Yeah, not Virgil Hill, Virgil Hunter. And I've seen improvements, for example, in the offensive bodywork and whatnot, but their flaws, you can't always get rid of a fighter's flaws. Their weakness is always going to be there, but you can always try to hide it and you can minimize how often they're there. And it's always there. It's often there. In the Willie Hutchinson fight was there. In the Callum Smith fight was there. where he holds his feet too often in the mid-range. He's trying to look for a counter, but he's not blocking his face, and he's just taking shots full on. He's unable to get out of the way of them. And when those shots happen, you expect, okay, you've been hurt once. Now you need to understand that that shot's there. Move. He doesn't adjust. He doesn't move. He's trying to do the same things again, and he keeps getting hit. In fact, the same stuff happened against Craig Richards back then. This was back in 2021, where he was holding his feet too often when he was close up. Craig was then being able to tee off on him because he saw Buatsi have this lull and wait a bit too often. So he's finding those shots and there's opportunities in between. And the fact that it's getting exposed more and more and more as the fights go on just means you're regressing, if anything. Obviously, the level of competition is going up, and that's why it's being exposed. But you've got to change that. And I think we'll see again instances here where Parker lands certain things. We're like, he shouldn't be landing that, but he does. But it should be routine for Buatsi, and he should knock him out. And again, this is another example of a fight that I personally don't think has been promoted as well. Again, this is Buatsi's first fight with Queensbury, but it hasn't really been promoted that well. And again, it's in Manchester, so I question if Joshua Buatsi is your main guy, why wouldn't you put this on in London? Because London is his main fan base. That's where a lot of his fans are. I would have said if you made, Parker Wardley pay-per-view, putting this on the undercard would have been better, and actually would have made it worth tuning into if it was on the O2. But yeah, let's see. But UK boxing becomes slow. It's hard to say much because it's just become slow on all fronts. The media has become a bit crappy. The promotions become rubbish. It just feels like, to me, it feels like UK boxing and boxing in general has been on an international break for months now. Everything just feels very slow. So there's not really much to look forward to at the moment when it comes to UK boxing. But this is there. I'll be tuning in, watching this fight, as most of us will be when it comes to Joshua Buatsi. But yeah, let's hope the schedule starts getting a bit more packed in the next couple weeks, and it will do. Of course, you've got Eubank Ben 2 coming up. You've got the Tank fight also happening on the same weekend. You've then got the Ring 4 card, which is happening. And one thing I mentioned about that Ring 4 card was if you look at all those fights, you've got Benavidez Yard, you've got Norman versus Haney, you've got Noakes versus Mason, and then you've also got Bam versus Puma for the undisputed titles. It's great that it's all stacked on one card, but if we're being realistic, if you had months of an inconsistent schedule, that card will be much better off spreading out over the course of a month than being on one single night. In the same way, when we had the Better Be of Bivol 2 card, again, one of the best cards we've seen. But if you put on Buatsi versus Callum Smith at the start, and it's on 3 p.m. when Premier League games are being kicked off, you're better off putting that in Liverpool as a main event headliner by itself, and it would garner so much more attention, so much more media. The fight would have done more when it comes to their careers as well, in terms of how well received Smith and Buatsi would have been afterwards. Then it serves to be on this stat card where it won't really get as much eyes in Riyadh. So that's been kind of one of my issues recently with these Riyadh season cards, where you're stacking them, but the schedule's inconsistent. Why would any network want to put on regular fight nights? You'd rather take the Netflix model, which is what they're doing right now, where you invest in the big events and then you don't really do the fight nights in between. You just let that go, because clearly the other promoters aren't putting effort into their own fight nights. I mean, Top Rank don't even have a TV deal yet, which is insane. You're one of the biggest promoters in US, and you still haven't sorted out a TV deal. You've got so many fighters. You've got to sort something out. You've then got Matchroom, who seem like they're giving up. If you look at some of the events they're putting on, even this weekend, they've got Lenier Power versus Jordan Thompson out in America. What kind of main event is that? It's rubbish. Power's going to beat the crap out of Thompson, who's a huge cruiserweight now going up to heavyweight, and Power's a very good amateur Cuban who's now one of the guys that they're looking at going to the top of the heavyweight division. But what kind of main event is that for Americans? If these guys are in between, not really doing with the schedule being very inconsistent, like, hey, here you go type of thing, well then even as a casual fan, and people still don't understand boxing is still niche, it becomes more and more niche because you only tune in for the 5 or 6 events that turn up, and that's it. You don't really do anything for the sport like that. So, what's your guys' thoughts on how inconsistent the schedule's been, and having these stat cards? Yeah, is it better or good for the sport? Jide, your thoughts?
It's not good for the sport. It's not good. Where like I said, we're in a lull in boxing and interest is waning even in the UK. The UK is usually a very strong market. What I will say is we tend to have these periods with high peaks and lows. Before AJ came along, we even though we had like Carl Froch, David Hay, it was like the backing of Amir Khan. Well, Amir Khan was really fighting in the US, so we weren't really in the UK. The UK scene wasn't really bubbling like that. So it was kind of like one or two guys. It was there was a lull. So I feel like we're in that current situation. But compared now to then, is this is more like it's self inflicted with the way promoters have been promoting boxing, the way the fighters have been moving. We're not getting, like you said, we should have just combined the Joshua Buatsi card with the pay per view of Wardley and Parker. That would have been a great card. That would have justified the pay per view. But you're trying to split it up because the reason you're trying to split it up is because fighters are probably asking for more money, or or Queensbury are being a bit greedy, and you're thinking you can just milk the fans and just use us as cash cows and we're just gonna give you our money. Like you're not building these fighters. It's pay per view. But the entire model is predicated on the fighter being a star. You don't make stars through pay per view. Like it's so dumb. And you're just getting to this point where these guys just keep falling to the back of the British public. Bro, ask a casual about boxing. Most of them don't know none of these guys, bro. Like my girl's friends, all they know is Anthony Joshua, and the guy's been washed for like a year or so. Like they don't know none of these guys. None of these guys are stars. None of these guys have been built up. We're in trouble. I truly do believe we're in trouble in this sport, but we'll see how it goes.
Chris, your thoughts on the state of UK boxing, what we mentioned?
It's a mess, man. It's a mess, and you only have to look at the Parker Wardley fight. Um, Anyone who wanted to go to that fight could have gone to that fight. Um, I don't know. I don't know what they spoke about. Numbers were actually in the stadium, at the O2, but we all know people were getting in on highly discounted tickets, and for me, it's a reflection of interest in the sport right now. The stat cards, they give us moments, they give us occasions, and from time to time, it's not a bad idea. From time to time, if things line up, but generally, you want to make sure that we have boxing consistently over the year. Um, because, like you said, since the Crawford fight, what fights are casuals really going to watch? Like, what is there to watch since that Crawford fight happened? The Crawford fight was in September. You're going all the way till pretty much the end of or the middle of November before you see another half decent fight with Eubank Ben.
Yeah.
And then we've got the stacked cards with Yard and Benavidez. And then what's next?
I actually don't know.
You
Uh,
you I think we got a card in December, don't we?
we got what?
We've got stuff in December, don't we? And then you got
We've got
like
Lara and Roach, I know, and obviously Janovic. Not Lara. Roach and what's his name? Cruz, and then you've got
yeah,
Janibek on that card as well, because they had to postpone. They had to move some of the Thurman fights to the Roach card. So obviously you got Foster and
yeah,
Fulton on that one as well. Actually, let me look up the schedule.
yeah. And let's be real, the names that you've just mentioned now,
How
like
big?
are casuals really gonna tune into that? No. Are they gonna pay to watch that? Probably not. Like, yeah, we just need a bit of balance. We just need a bit of balance and a little bit of decorum when it comes to planning these fights out, because the way things are looking now, um, it will be easy to lose interest in boxing. That's for sure.
Yeah, completely. I'm just looking through the schedule, and there's not really much in December.
I know we got Tank versus Jake Paul coming up.
Yeah, but even that one, like the interest for it isn't a lot because again, even casual fans look at the difference between the two and they go, "Well, what's the point of me watching this?"
Mm.
There's not really a big appeal to it, but they still haven't pushed when it comes to the promotion of it. I'm just looking through. So December. I mean, you haven't got big names in December. That's all I'm seeing now. There's no big name. The only one is the Riyadh season card fight where you have Inoue, the whole Japanese card that they put on, where you got Inoue taking on Picasso. You've got Junto Nakatani on the undercard, Sutsumi on the undercard, and Kenshiro Taraji. So yeah, there's nothing basically huge on the December schedule. Nothing huge, especially from a British perspective. There's nothing huge.
Ridiculous.
The one fight that's interesting is Pulev versus Gassiev. It's Friday, 12th of December. I'll be watching that one. That'll be interesting to see how that goes. But again, this is someone because I've been watching boxing for a while, and we've been watching boxing for a while, so we'll tune into that. But for a casual, you don't really care. You don't even know who Pulev or Gassiev is. You've got Diego Pacheco versus Kevin Saggio, which is a good fight, to be fair. That is a decent fight. But again, in terms of like what we're looking at in terms of big event, that's not a big event at all. Yeah, there's nothing much to excite you if you were a casual fan. So it's disappointing, isn't it? And then you've got guys like Itama, for example, who has only fought 5 minutes in 2025, and I wonder who part of Itama's team can tell me how that is good for a 20-year-old to only have 5 minutes of fight time in a year, and his next fight being in January or beyond. But that's another example why things are messed up, because someone like Itama is probably getting overpaid by Riyadh season. He's not gonna settle for normal card events. He's gonna want to do the big events rather now. And that's detrimental to his development, because in my opinion he should be fighting more often, even if it's not a great opponent. Get him on a card because he needs to be fighting more and more, because that's how you develop yourself. Someone like Caballero fighting in January, you fought Zhang in February, and there's a possibility you might fight Tony Yoka in January. Why are we waiting all this long to fight Tony Yoka? You could fight him this year. Like, it's not a big fight. That's something you can have a decent normal camp for and still beat him. It's not a huge fight to set up. It's disappointing. It's like boxing goes in this cycle where it does well, and then again these lot just mess things up because the simple things are there, but no one wants to do the simple thing yet. So yeah, but I think that covers everything today. Yeah. Make sure to tune in. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not, head over to our YouTube and make sure to like and subscribe so you can keep up with all the podcasts. Make sure to let us know your thoughts in the comments and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Ringside Fracas. And please stay with us as we go through this excruciating journey of boxing as fans. And we'll see you in the next episode. Peace.
Peace.